and we are on today's episode of the Remote Learning with Microsoft EDU show. And we've been doing this for over 6 weeks at this point. We're going to be cracking 30 shows pretty soon, which is very exciting. And today, we've got a really great show for you. We have school leadership and distance learning, and we have Doctors Anthony Newbold and Darren Clay. And so on Twitter, I put out, it's not often that I go into fanboy mode, but with these two guys, I do, because they are incredible. And it's really great to have them on this show. And I've known them for quite a few years, and I'll introduce them just after we do the latest news and updates. So our quick links to get started. We have the Microsoft Education Remote Learning site that has all of the latest and greatest stuff we're doing. There's the Teams EDU Quick Start Guide, and that is a PDF. If you're brand new to Teams and want to get up and running, that's the great one to use. And then sign up for the Remote Learning community. That's a community of over 5,000 people from all across the country and world. We are partnering with them in a big, giant Microsoft team. The product team is in there. We're supporting them. There's collaboration happening across schools and districts and countries. And it's a great place to learn and get up and running with remote learning. In terms of today's updates, I think it was Thursday, we had a really, really big Teams blog, all the latest updates for Teams in April. Huge number, like too many to list. But all the things like 3x3 grid, raise hands, that's going to be coming out soon. IT admin features, a whole slew of things that I encourage people to check out. We also launched a brand new Microsoft Education playlist of videos, all on special education and accessibility. So a great YouTube playlist of a ton of our really good videos all around this important topic. And since we're talking about school leadership, I figured I'd put a link to the Microsoft Education Transformation Framework, which is really about school leadership and transforming to a digital notion and all of the planning and framework that goes into something like that, because it's a big project, and as many people have discovered, it can be sped up during distance learning. And so it's not like you're always going to have maybe the time that you predicted you would in the beginning. So that's a great one to take a look at. So with that, we're going to be introducing here, we have Dr. Anthony Newbold, who has actually both Anthony and Darren, just as a backstory, I met both of them. We were just before the call trying to figure out, I think it was probably 3.5+ years ago in Bellevue at a high school. And we had a mini conference there, and we were just rolling out a very early edition of our PLC concept, which actually morphed into Teams later, but initially it was in the Office 365 groups. And these guys came up to me and they said, oh, hey, we would like to pilot that because that sounds like a really cool new digital concept. And both Anthony and Dr. Darren Clay, both of them have really been early adopters, early leaders. A lot of the things we've been talking about for remote and distance learning and blended learning, they've been on the forefront of, but really from that school leadership perspective. And we have Darren here as well. They were both previously at Bear Creek, but they have now both moved on to bigger and more exciting things, and they're doing a lot of great work. And so what I'm going to do is transition, and I think we're going to start with Anthony, and he's going to share some slides, but they're both going to talk about distance learning and school leadership. So with that, thank you both for joining us today, and I'll stop presenting.
All right. Well, thank you, Mike, for that introduction. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen now. And here we go. Again, thank you for having us, Mike. It has been a long time. It seems like a long time. Where we've gotten to know each other, and it's just been an honor to be able to work with you and pilot things that really make a difference in the lives of kids. As Mike said, my name is Anthony Newbold. I am the founding principal of Global Impact Academy, which is a brand new school. We will not open our doors to students until the fall of 21, but it will be a brand new STEM school. And we're going to really embrace many of the products that Microsoft has for the betterment of our students. And so I'll let Darren introduce himself as well.
Greetings, everyone. Darren Clay, excited to be with you today. Transformation Leadership Coordinator with the Georgia Department of Ed, where I oversee leadership work for our lowest performing schools in the state. And naturally, if you think about innovation and transformation, and when we think about Microsoft education tools, they kind of sit hand in hand, and that's what brings me here with you today.
So there at the bottom of that screen, you'll see our Twitter handles. So please go ahead and follow us. I can speak for myself, and I think I can safely speak for Darren as well. You know, we love to collaborate. We love to learn from others. And so let's continue this journey together. You can follow us there with our Twitter handles. So again, just to give you just a bit of background on us, we were both administrators. I was the principal, Darren was the assistant principal at Bear Creek Middle School in Fairburn, Georgia. It's a small city right outside of Atlanta. And while we were there, our district decided that they were going to fully embrace Office 365. And we said, look, since we're early adopters, we need to get out in front of this. And as leaders in the building, we found it very, very important that we were well versed in many of the applications, so that would give that validity to us, you know, for our teachers. And so we went about becoming MIEs and MIEEs and Surface experts and all of those different distinctions that Microsoft offers. But in the course, because we were a one-to-one school, all of our students had the opportunity to get his or her own computer. We also became a Microsoft Showcase school. And I'll let Darren speak to that a little bit as well.
So as a part of our journey with the Showcase schools, we really wanted to take a hands-on approach to this work. And naturally, our mentality was, if we're going to do this, we're going to go all out. So we applied to be a Showcase school. And that's kind of step 2. After you become a Microsoft school, you can apply to become a Showcase school. And really what that does, that creates a great opportunity to kind of expand your horizons and get exposure to research-based practices across the globe, and really become a part of a network in which you can really glean, how should this look? How does education transformation look in regards to my setting, in regards to other schools that are trying to figure this innovation concept out?
All right. So one of the things we wanted to kind of show you is just our year-to-year progression and how we began. Like I said, in year 1, we had one-to-one devices. We really used OneNote as our main platform. And then we were able to host a large, actually at the time, it was the largest Microsoft Showcase event called the Redefining Learning Conference, where we allowed teachers to show other teachers what they were doing in their classroom. And it was really, really powerful. You jump into year 2, we started using Class Notebook, and that's when learning tools came out. We were one of the first users of forms to collect data and formally and informally assess students. Started using Sway and Planner and all of those things. And then we had another Redefining Learning event that was even bigger. I think that year we had 1,600 attendees with over 120, 130 teacher presentations. It was a really, really powerful moment. And then in year 3, that's when we really started to adopt Teams. That became our go-to when we talked about, and we'll talk about this in a little bit, some of our distance learning, the early distance learning for, in our case, that was weather days where we might have had a snow day. We use Teams as the main platform to continue the learning with our students. So there's lots of stuff that we learned along the way. And in a second, I'm going to go to the next slide, and we're going to kind of lay out some of the applications that we've used and that we think are still really important in this whole immediate switch to distance learning. Darren, did you have anything you want to add to that?
Just emphasizing how we were able to connect all the dots through Teams. Like, all of our Office 365 applications lived in Teams as that central hub. So that made it easier logistically and just in terms of implementation and rollout to house everything in Teams. So teachers really were able to kind of turn on to the next switch and really roll this out at the classroom level as well.
So now we're going to kind of jump into some school leader scenarios. And, you know, I'm no fortune teller. But in some conversations with people here recently, we've talked about the strong possibility and probably the strong probability that we will continue to see some of these interruptions in what we have known as a traditional classroom setting. So I think that we're going to have more blended days. There may be some intermittent absences and things out. And there may be some students, frankly, in the fall who just don't feel comfortable coming back into the building as it once was. But it's still our responsibility as educators to continue the learning for those students and provide opportunity. So what I'm going to do is kind of walk through some of these applications, starting with Teams, and talk about how we've used these and how you all can begin to use these as we continue in this distance learning format. So, of course, the first one is Teams. And just to kind of bullet a few things, and then I do want to show a few things. With Teams, we talk about observation and coaching. And one of the things that both Darren and I were really big on is coaching teachers. I'm a former athlete and a former coach, and there's nothing like when you really turn on that coaching and then you see that spark or you see that player produce. It's the same thing with teaching. When we're in these classrooms and we see an area where a small adjustment can be made, and we take time out to work alongside that teacher to provide that coaching, and then we see it manifest itself in the classroom, it's really reassuring because now we know that there are students who are going to get the things that they need to get. And so I'm going to show you a slide in a second that kind of outlines how we've used Teams to do some in the moment, real time observation and coaching. And then we have principal PLCs. You know, oftentimes as school leaders, we talk about how our teachers need to form these groups and they need to collaborate and work together. But I think it's equally as important for us as principals and school leaders, district leaders, to do the exact same thing. And so through Teams, it makes it possible. You can do things like book studies. You can meet in PLCs without having to leave your office or nowadays your home, and that rich learning can continue. And then you also have the option to do some remote leadership team meetings. So in those remote leadership team meetings, documents can be shared, conversations can be had. You can take polls and figure out what our next steps are going to be. And we'll talk about some of that as we go on through some of the applications that you can integrate into Teams. And then this last piece is a new piece through Teams where you can look at some of the analytics, especially in class teams. You can take a look at the analytics in a classroom. So when you go back up to that piece about coaching and observation and working alongside teachers, you can look at the analytics from assignments and things that have been given to students and figure out the proper course of action, whether that be reteaching, whether students have to go on and get some enrichment, whatever the case may be, you can look at the analytics. So here is a slide where Darren and I were working with a teacher of ours. So on the left, you can see him in his classroom. And again, I want to stress that this is an opportunity to improve overall instruction. This is not a got you. So in this particular situation, we had worked with this teacher and we set up a computer in his classroom and turned on the camera. He knew that we were doing it, the students were there, but what this gave us the opportunity to do is receive a real view of what it looks like in his classroom when we're not there. You know, as leaders, you all know when you walk into a classroom, things change. Teacher behavior changes, student behavior changes, and it's not always the real deal. It's not always the real situation that takes place in the classroom. So that particular teacher, he took an earpiece from his, AirPods, and he connected it to the Bluetooth in his computer. And now we were able to communicate with him and give him instruction on what he should be doing. So if there was a student off task, we can tell him in his ear, hey, go stand by Sam. He's starting to get off task, and use that strategy that we talked about with proximity. And now that teacher walks over and he does that. So we're able to watch him while he's doing it. Then from there, you look at the image on the right. That's the three of us in our feedback meeting. And so we're able to provide feedback to him based on the things that we saw. So it's really, really powerful. It's in the moment and it's right on time. And it's exactly what teachers need at that moment in time. And then this is class insights. So as your teachers begin to set up their class notebooks or their class teams, this is a new feature that is there in the general tab. So along the top, you have the general tab, or in the general tab, you have insights. And once you go into insights, you can see the digital activity. You can see the average grade in the class. You can see the on-time average, the amount of time that it provides for feedback, and then the communication activity. So all of that data, that rich data, is right there at your fingertips. And so now we can continue that conversation when we circle back to the observation and coaching. We can add this to that conversation to assist that teacher in making progress in his or her classroom. The next one I want to identify is Sway, and this is something that I have used heavily. It took me a minute. I'm not gonna kid you. It took me a minute to adjust to Sway, but once I got it, I got it. And so I'm going to click here, and hopefully I will take you out, and you will see a Sway that I created. So the school that I was formerly at, we were the Centennial Knights, and I created a communication called the Nightly Manor. And in the Nightly Manor, the purpose of the Nightly Manor was to keep our community, our stakeholders, abreast of what was going on in the building. And so I used this template to create the Nightly Manor. And in here, I have in this issue, and then as you continue to scroll down, there's information. We had exchange students from Tanzania, and we needed some host families. Digital citizenship is always big on all of our minds. Attendance and college fare for our Latino students. You can embed YouTube videos. So these were our student announcements. We had colleges coming to visit our schools, so we wanted to make sure that parents were aware, and other opportunities as well. And so this was a powerful tool to have this template, and I would be able to update it quickly, and once a week I would put these out. I'm not able to show it to you right now, but you also have some data, some analytics to go along with it. You can see the number of people who viewed it, whether they did a deep read or if they just did a skim job. It was a really, really neat tool to use in terms of communication with the community. And so going back, if you have a cluster of schools, maybe you all want to do a newsletter, you can use Sway. If you want to just create a parent flyer, instead of sending those things out and they get lost on the school bus, they get lost on the way home, it's digital, it's in the parents' inbox, and it's always available to them. So that's another way that we've used another Microsoft application. And especially in these remote times, I think communication right now is key. Our parents, our stakeholders want to hear from us. They want to know exactly what is going on because it's very uncertain times. And the last one that I want to talk about is Microsoft Forms. Like I said, at Bear Creek, we were one of the early adopters at one time. I think the data was out there, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, Darren, but we were one of the heaviest users of forms, and we used it for a little bit of everything: sign in, sign out. We used it for formative assessments and things along those lines. And so these are excellent tools to receive feedback, to assess students. Like I said, for sign in out of meetings and things along those lines. And so I have a slide here, and I'm hoping that this will play out loud for you. And let's see if we can get this to play on how forms and teams integrate.
Share system audio too, Anthony, if you haven't done that already. Up in the, if you know how to do that up top, where you include audio, that little hover, pop down, and then you can click that little share.
Yes, just waiting on it to pop up. Hopefully we can get that. All right, let's see. And if I'm not able to share it now, maybe we can do a demo a little bit later. I don't want to use up too much time. All right, let's see.
Yeah, it's not coming through on the audio on our side.
All right. Let me play around with that, and I'll come back to it. Darren, if you want to go ahead and take that from there, and you may be able to play it on yours, Darren, if you're able to turn that sound on. I just wasn't able to get that there.
Sure.
All right,
so we'll try to play that one more time.
Okay. All right, we've all been in a situation where we're in an online meeting through Teams and we're trying to get the input of others. Sometimes getting that input can be very difficult, especially when you have a large group of people. It just gets all jumbled up. Well, there's an easy way to go about doing that. So as we talk about forms, if we open up our conversation pane and we're looking at our chat, I come down here to the ellipses. And in some cases, you're going to have to type in forms, but I've already done so. And so I'm going to click on forms. And now it will bring this window up. So in here, I can now type in my poll. Do you prefer online, face-to-face, or blended instruction? And I want to send this out to my teachers or my meeting group. So here I'm going to give option 1 online, face-to-face. I'm going to add a third option of blended. I'm going to hit next, and it is going to give me a preview. And now I like what I see, so I'm going to send it. And as I do that in real time, my poll will pop up over here. So here's the poll. All of the participants will see this. They will go ahead and vote. So I'm going to say I prefer blended because I still think there's a time for face-to-face, and I'm going to submit my vote. And as I do that, in real time, my data will begin to populate. And now that's a quick, easy way on how I can build consensus in my meetings using forms. All right, we've all been in a situation.
So that's a great way to just capture some quick feedback, whether you're in a meeting and or facilitating conversation through a Teams channel. So transitioning to OneNote. OneNote is kind of the foundational kind of tool that gravitated me personally towards Microsoft. So it's a tool that is very robust, commonly referred to as Microsoft's kind of organizational tool, if you will. But I'm just going to share a few scenarios in which I've used OneNote, myself and Anthony have used OneNote, and how this can look in a remote environment. Because as we think about traditional practices and approaches, now I think it behooves us to think about how does this now look in a remote environment and how can we simulate some of these same activities and tasks and things of that sort. So professional development plans, you can house the notes, the PowerPoints, all of the documents that would kind of be given in a paper format. You can house all of that in OneNote. Instructional coaching, providing that support and feedback. Also, staff support and accountability. How do we think about, or how do we now think differently about how we're going to support and hold staff members accountable? You can actually do that through OneNote. You can facilitate your PLCs through OneNote. You can house and distribute resources through OneNote and have kind of a built-in repository of best practices that live throughout your school and have that housed in OneNote, which is ultimately connected to your Teams folders and tabs and things of that sort. So the second tool I would like to show you is becoming my new favorite is Planner. This is a great tool, and when you think about how to manage people remotely, that is a challenge in itself. How do you manage people? So I use Planner and have used Planner and help team members kind of elevate their use of Planner through observation trackers where you can track down observations and kind of manage tasks and things of that sort. Also, you can use Planner for PLCs, so team member management. You know, it comes with a built-in scheduling and figuring out, okay, who's going to be responsible for what. And lastly, team projects. So when you think about all of the projects that you have to manage as leaders, that you would naturally have the time and space to coordinate face-to-face, how does that now look remotely? So I'm going to show you a few examples here. So this is one planner working with the team here. We're working on some self-paced activities. And I think the coolest thing about Planner, you can have kind of multi-step activities and tasks and kind of check and mark your progress as you go. And if we kind of trickle this down to the classroom level, this is where you can have those multi-step curriculum activities as well. So with Planner, there's 3 views here. I just want to show you quickly. You have this board, kind of this open canvas where you can have kind of categories and tasks and activities, and you can kind of check off and assign to different team members. And then you would also have this chart where you can kind of measure progress, and you can see automated data and kind of trickle down to individual people on your team and kind of look at their progress and have a high level overview of the status of those projects. The last view I'll show you here quickly is the schedule view. And with the schedule view, this really puts it in a calendar format for you. So we had a heavy lift in April, and this is just kind of an example of the different tasks that we had to do in April. So when you think about Planner and kind of conceptualize this and kind of transition this into in a remote environment, I think there's a couple hidden gems to earmark here. When we think about the built-in schedule, where you can have a built-in schedule and you can assign those tasks to different folks on your team. Automated accountability. No longer are you having to chase people down, send emails, send Teams chat messages. It's automatically automated. It comes with reminders and notifications and things of that sort. And then the data visuals. So you can have, if you're a visual learner like myself, you can have those visuals and those progress charts to kind of facilitate those conversations and know where your status is as a team. The last tool I'll highlight here real quickly is Microsoft Stream. So think of Stream as a secure video housing site, amped up YouTube, if you will, where it's secure to your organization, and you can have built-in analytics. You can even add quiz questions inside of Stream as well. Closed captioning, translations, all those finer accessibility features are built into Stream. So just want to paint a picture for you. Imagine we've already been in over a month or so of remote learning. And imagine if we start to capture some of the best lessons we have, some of the best tutorials we have, and we start to create this repository of best practices. Just imagine how powerful that could be, and that can all live in Stream. And you can tell every 9th grade student, in addition to watch this master teacher teach slope, right? Teach algebra. You can really simulate that environment. Also, flip faculty meetings, so you can allow staff members that flexibility to watch videos and streams at their own discretion. And also self-paced learning. It's a great opportunity to have some self-paced activities here where teachers can learn, leaders can collaborate with each other. And also one thing to mention here is all of your meetings that place in Teams, they will upload to Stream. So you can also capture all your faculty meetings, all of your PLC meetings, all of those kind of things that you find yourself repeating to folks over time, you can redirect them to this Stream. So I'll just show you a real quick example of what this could look like in the classroom. So this is a channel from a team, and you see there's a Stream channel of several tutorials here. So just imagine if a student was struggling with a particular topic, I'm a teacher. I may not be an expert on that particular standard, but I can just search for that standard in the stream database, if you will, and I can go ahead and drop those videos right here, and students can go to these channels, and you can kind of see the number of views, the number of reactions. There's also a comments feature. In addition to that, you can also have that transcribe. You can have closed captioning, and you can drop in some quiz questions in there to hold students accountable and get those analytics as well. So definitely a plethora of ways you can take your instruction and your leadership to the next level with Stream. So as we summarize here, just want to make sure everybody captured these scenarios and how this can facilitate the heartbeat of your remote learning, if you will, and just maximizing on the tools that you already have within Office 365 as your next steps, as you think about not only remote learning as it is today, but those periodic interruptions that we may foresee come the fall. So as we close up, just wanted to kind of summarize with our contact information. Anthony and I are happy to collaborate with you further.
Oh, this is great, Darren. I love that last slide you showed. I screenshotted that one on Twitter while we were going, because it's a great one. And both of you, the topics that were covered today were fantastic. I think it's really, really useful, and it's explicit, and it shows really powerful ways that people can use free tools and start doing a lot of these types of scenarios that maybe they haven't done before. And right now is like the perfect time to start trying them out.
Hey, Mike, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
In the Q&A, there was a question. I think maybe you might be able to assist us with this question, because on my end, the answer is no. But the question is there functionality for sharing videos externally? We need to share videos with awarding bodies, but they don't have logins to our domain. Also thinking of sharing with parents that also don't have accounts.
Is this for Stream in particular, videos?
I think they're asking about Stream, yes.
Yeah, so good question. Unfortunately, this is a top topic, and I know the Stream team is hard at work on it. Right now, they do not have like anonymous sharing, for example, of videos with Stream in an easy way. But that is something that is a top ask, and I know the team is working on it. We just don't have a date by which we have it available, but it's definitely one that we've heard from and we know is an important scenario.
Very good.
Okay, well, thank you both for joining us today. I'm just going to wrap us up and close out here in just 1 minute. So we have a recap of the updates from today, the team's big April update blog that came out on Thursday. The link is here. The brand new accessibility playlist from Microsoft that has all sorts of great videos around special education, accessibility, and the inclusive classroom. And then the education transformation framework, which is a great guide and document that really shows how you can move digitally and transform your education system. And also all of the slides today, including, like, again, I love that slide that you have at the end and the beginning of your deck that talks about how you're using these different tools in school leadership scenarios. I think that's a great one, just framing all these things. But all the great slides in this deck will be posted tomorrow morning at the link here. And we'll be adding this video to our remote learning playlist on YouTube. And then just a reminder, anytime you have to file a support ticket as an educator, we have a special teacher-friendly support link here where you can file any sort of issue or bug that you're hitting, and we have people to help out. And then lastly, just what's coming up next. Another favorite topic of mine is special education and accessibility resources. And Microsoft just released an incredible new site that is one of my favorite sites I've seen in a while, dedicated to this topic. We have the folks on the I2E group that helped put that site together who are going to give us a deep dive walkthrough. Then we've got Lauren Taylor from Tacoma School District. She's going to be talking about how they've been using Teams to bring together class, staff, and families. Tacoma, kind of like Bear Creek, has been a really early adopter of Teams for quite a few years now, and so they're doing some great stuff. And then on Monday, we've got a tag team of Cal Armstrong and Tom Grissom, and they're going to be talking about innovative pedagogy during remote learning, so that one should be a lot of fun too. And then our whole schedule is down below as usual. Other than that, thank you very much to Mary Lyon, our producer behind the scenes, and we will see you soon.
Thank you.